confirmation of the council minutes.
So I had that issue with the minutes. I ultimately did stay the whole meeting, so it says I was a partial apology, but I wrote it out.
So your apology still stands?
Can we note, but she was there?
Yeah, so that's why we didn't register at any point that you left the room. So your attendance will say 100%, but your registered apologies is still stand.
Okay, but if someone reads the minutes, then they'll go, oh, she was a partial without necessarily going through the whole thing. Surely there must be a way to...
And which is why we have the attendance spreadsheet that we put online
right.
to cover the bases for people that may not understand how our minutes exactly work.
Perfect, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's sorted. We'll move to the confirmation of the minutes. Myself, Deputy Mayor Angela, all in favour. Post carried. Then we get to the Chair's report. Let me see. Got a couple of notes on the go. So I'm not going to go into a great lot of detail. I'll take a lot of what I have said as read. I will move down to the joint Waikato Mayors and Mayoral Forum, Local Water Done Well, and just make a couple of comments around that. It was a very good meeting, good full turnout of the mayors, actually very productive and really happy that we got to hear from every single one of the mayors and every single one of the chief executives as to their view on what's happening in their area. Suffice to say, in summary, everybody's still on board with working at a collaborative level regionally. So that's the work that's being undertaken by Vaughan Payne on behalf of the forum. So he produced a report, which I think has been circulated to you, if not it can be, around the steps and timelines. Each council talked about what was going on with them. So I reiterated exactly where we're at, really, that we're still in the conversation about a regional entity, but we're also looking at what's right for Hamilton in the shorter, medium term in terms of a potential CCO of a different scale, a smaller scale, Hamilton only or sub-regionally or whatever, depending on what the assessment and the research indicates is the best outcome. We talked about the different needs of the councils, with some of them having heavy need around compliance. So not going to name and shame any councils, but there are some councils who have a significant number of assets that they need to bring up to compliance with Taumata Arawai standards and so on. That will take investment, but they may also have some more debt capacity to do so if they're prepared to increase their rates and so forth. We're in a different situation because compliance is not our issue. As you know, it's how much we can invest into the much needed future waters that we need for unlocking growth in our city, at the same time being mindful of our debt to revenue gap and the pressures there. And we know all about that because we played that all out with the LTP, and it will come back to us in the next LTP amendment / annual plan. I'll just go through the report if I see the questions. But do you mind if I? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. On last week, I met with the Fire and Emergency Services Board during their visit to Hamilton, and that was extremely useful. It was, in fact, excellent because they had the fire board from all around the Waikato, and the Hamilton people were the hosts. So I got to meet the board and the Waikato Fire Services chiefs. We talked about fire crewing across the broader Waikato and what that means, where the resources sit. We also talked about what's right for Hamilton. And I'm just trying to find out, I wrote some notes, but I guess the key points is that they acknowledge that there is pressure on Hamilton because we're growing so fast. They did talk about a lot of pressure coming on to the volunteer firefighting services, which we may be quite surprised step in and do a lot of work for the paid service, and we are well served. For example, the most work that the voluntary fire service in Ngaruawahia do is to assist Hamilton with their work. There were a lot of statistics and charts I won't go into, so what I thought I would do is ask them, and they have agreed, to come and talk with us at a session, at a workshop session, where we can ask our warts and all questions. I've promised them a couple of actions in terms of getting them to the metro sector in Wellington, advocating on their behalf to government for some of the things that they need in terms of resources, which is both personnel and appliances. We also talked about their base, the fire and emergency base, the state of their stations, and the need to get a better hub for fire and emergency services, and some of the work we've done on transport we mentioned as well. So it was actually a really good meeting, and I was sad that I couldn't stay for the afternoon session where they went out to Ruakura and looked at fire risk for our city, identifying both Peacock and Ruakura as future high need areas for a fire service. If a fire happens at Ruakura, you know, it's not a residential area at the moment, but it's likely to have a huge scale because it's industrial, whereas fire service in parts of town is likely to be more risk to property and families. So all of that in balance. Absolutely fascinating. I was really grateful for them to have me there, and I'm really grateful for their offer to come and give you a lighter version of what I spent the day listening to, and where you can ask your own questions. Hopefully that meets your need. The annual general meeting's coming up. I put out an email asking if people were interested in attending, and Councillor Moko is keen, but because he's part of Te Maraata as well, and had a chat with Tim. Tim was really keen to learn, coming into a new sector from central government, and really keen to have him go with us. So I have made that suggestion. And the rest I'll take. Oh, the advisory group for climate. We've got a submission, as always, and this is one of the frustrations we always face. The deadline for submissions is never generous and never really fits with our timetable. So we have got the government second emissions reduction plan coming. We need to submit to that, unless we choose to remain silent, which I don't think would be wise. So I've suggested that the Climate Strategy Advisory Group work with staff, and that Angela and I have the final delegated authority to approve that submission. So that's my report. Questions? Let me just see who was first. Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Mayor Southgate. Just in regard to the local government conference, and in the spirit of keeping an eye on our finances, have we got an idea how much this is going to cost us to send and
it's approximately 3,000, just under 3,000 per elected member.
3 per elected member, right? And in the spirit of new councillors getting an opportunity to go, it's obviously good to see Tim there. I note that we will have a new Maori councillor in a week or so. Is there going to be an opportunity for them to go? Are we providing for that, or?
Good question, and no, I haven't considered that. They will be learning at a fast pace. I would suggest that they went to because we can't get everyone to every conference, and you know, we kind of try and manage it over the years. So I would suggest that they went to the very next one, and that they, you know, got their feet under this table and then had the opportunity to go local government conference, should they wish, actually, the following year. Last year we had quite a few, because we had quite a few new councillors really keen to learn. I go because I vote on your behalf at all the remits, and you know, I'm part of the National Council, so it would be a bit strange if I didn't, I feel.
Thank you.
Is that okay? Councillor Wilson?
Yeah, thanks. Mayor Paul, I've got a couple of questions. First one, similarly to my colleague, Councillor Jeff. In light of the fact that you are on the National Council and head up the Metro Mayors, are you not given a free attendance to the local government conference?
Not anymore. And they did do that at some point. I haven't. The reason being is, of course, their own finances are tough. And it's a very much similar to Zone 2, actually, or any of the zones where the councils meet their own cost of that business. So, no, they don't.
And so, for clarification, do you get remunerated additionally to being a member of the National Council?
No, I don't.
And the Metro Mayor?
No, I don't.
So you do a lot of work and they don't even provide a free attendance to the national
No,
conference?
they give us the fares, the flights down to national. Because of cost savings, we've gone to an every second meeting kind of approach. So for the metro sector, one is online and the next one is in person, which works really well. And they pay the airfares for that and any accommodation. If I have to stay, I try to avoid that. I try to do it on a day. But if I have to do that, then they meet the cost of that.
So the ratepayer isn't paying for your airfares for local government
No,
or for accommodation?
No.
Or per diems, okay. The protocol had been,
Yep, no, I'm just checking. That's correct, isn't it?
Can you
That's
just
probably-
reconfirm exactly what, sorry. Answer that.
Correct, that we either they book or we get reimbursed for Metro and National Council. Yeah, absolutely.
So could we have that confirmed?
Yep,
That
yep.
would be great. Could you just remind me, Mayor Paula, or maybe staff, Sean, what do we pay annually to be a member of local government? I know a number of councils have pulled out,
Yeah.
but I just...
Natasha, do you know? Because we looked at it at one point, but honestly. Yeah. It's based on population.
Yeah, it was over 100, was it? So
That's
could-
why Christchurch and Auckland is
Could we also have that circulated, just to...
Yep, we'll get it to
Mayor
you.
Paula, the reason I'm asking is obviously in light of the financial stresses.
This is going to be a question, right?
Yeah, it is, absolutely. Why would we be paying for Councillor Muckle when we paid for him to attend the local government conference last year as a new councillor? The protocol has been in the past...
Okay, let me talk to that. I can answer that
Yeah.
question. Firstly, I did put out for expressions of interest. We always send 3 or 4, well, it depends. We've always sent at least 3, including the voting delegate. Moko has a role on Te Maro Ata, which is the part of local government New Zealand that deals with iwi issues. So he actually does a lot of work on our behalf down in Wellington for that group. So he asked to go. I think it's reasonable if he's got a portfolio of work that he's working down there. Had we had a lot of competition from other people, we'd have had a process where we'd have, I wouldn't just be approving 2 people, we'd have been asking and going through a process. But we did have no other interest to go.
Mayor Paula, but haven't we, although we've had a policy of a few members attending, we've never had a policy that all of those members are ratepayer funded. We've had a policy that new councillors on their first term get a ratepayer funded conference, and then if people want to attend the others, they use their own PD.
That's not correct. Amy can talk to, could you differentiate between we have a
Or
budget?
maybe, Mayor Paula, you could point me in the direction of where is our policy?
Yeah, just one moment. I'm asking to ask Amy to do that. There's a policy around conference by resolution as a budget, and then there's your professional development budget, and you're probably better placed to differentiate for me on that one. Thank you.
You're absolutely right that there are the 2 budgets that we align with, and conference by resolution is easy to define because we have a resolution for it to be coming out of that budget, which is what this is seeking, versus the personal development, which is now the $3,000. That's the choice of the member, and they put through the request form or the emails through to myself and the governance coordinator, who then facilitate managing that.
Thank you. Final question on that issue to you, Amy. What is the budget for the conference by resolution?
Let me just get the exact figure for you, but while I'm getting that one, the 2025 local government New Zealand membership fee was $126,147.
$126,047,
$147.94, just for the exact.
194, 126,147 and 94 cents.
Yes.
And we don't get any freebies to the national conference for that.
No,
Okay.
not under that.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you.
And now I'm waiting for Amy to give me
It's
the
just
budget.
reloading for me, so I
While
can
she's
get-
doing that, Mayor Paul, a second question, a second line of question, if I could, just in terms of your meeting with the National Fire and Emergency, the National Fire and Emergency Services New Zealand Board. Mayor Paul, at any time during the discussion with them, did they raise concerns about speed humps in the city and whether or not that's creating any issues?
There's an
for
easy
them?
answer to that, Ewan. No, they did not raise it. However, I mentioned it when I was asked to share a few words. I'll tell you what they did raise on the matter of transport, is that they are really pleased with the GPS piece of work that we are leading the country in, and they mentioned it to the wider board, around green light priorities and other things, and they're really happy with the new process that they've got with the transport team to work through priority routes, which is the piece of work that Angela and I instigated November last year. So that's the only two pieces they mentioned. They said amongst individual firemen, there may be some views individually on speed humps, but it wasn't anywhere near one of their biggest concerns at all.
So thank you for that. Let me explore that. So they said to you there may be individual firemen or fire stations that have concerns. Were they specific?
No, they said that they were pleased with the process of we've taken to work these through.
Right, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
23,000
23,000.
23,000?
Yes.
What's 23,000?
is the conference by resolution
Yeah,
budget.
Mayor Paul, I signal
Thank you.
that I'll be moving an amendment to your recommendation regarding the annual conference. It is A through to F as is, but with B, approves the cost of Councillor Tim McIndoe to attend the annual conference as a ratepayer funded, and both yourself and Councillor Muckle should obviously, if you're wishing to attend, fund that out of your own PD. So that's the spirit of the amendment.
I recall your debate last year saying absolutely the mayor should always attend, but we'll go to that in debate. Councillor Pike, thank you.
Sorry, my question has been answered in the Foreign Service by Councillor Wilson. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Donovan. Thank you. Good morning.
Said rather cautiously, but I
Oh no, just for if anybody says I've seen me peeking, my granddaughter pulled the arm off my proper prescription glasses yesterday when I was reading a book with her. She was being helpful. We're done with the story, so she said done and yanked them off my face. Broke my glasses. These are 2 prescriptions ago. You're all a bit fuzzy, but we'll get through. Yeah, these are 2 prescriptions ago. It is. When you're our age, Sarah. Every second year you get a new. Anyway,
Okay.
sorry, Mark.
no, that's all right. No, I'll carry on. You mentioned your catch up with Minister Louise Upston. Was there any indication of where she says has requested our support? Did she wrap a budget around that by any chance? Oh, it was a letter. Sorry, my mistake. Oh, yes, it does. You received a letter. Yeah.
No, some mayors have taken umbrage with this because
Yeah.
feel it's another thing else to do. I don't know if there's any budget implication, Natasha. We didn't really go into it, did we? It was a request.
Was it just a general?
We did circulate the letter, however. Have you seen the letter?
No, clearly not.
Oh, we should have. Sorry, my apologies. I usually circulate those that come in. Can we circulate the letter?
I think that would give me some clarity around
Absolutely,
what that
no worries.
indicates. Thank you.
Yeah, so many things, so little time. Councillor Bidder.
Thank you, Mayor Paul. Firstly, a procedural issue. notes that recommendation B. I think that recommendation B is an incorrect reference. Which particular submission is that referring to?
The climate emissions one.
Right. And then
Oh, yes, it says B instead of C. Thank you, Andrew.
now, next question. Did the Mayor talk to any frontline firefighters?
I
amongst
often
the
do,
force?
thank you. Yeah, no, I often do. There were some frontline fire service there. It wasn't just the board, it was the fire chiefs and the chief of stations were all there. So yes, I did. And I have done prior. And Andrew and I have met on a regular basis with Daryl Trim. You know, my view is, as mayor, I shouldn't be running around talking to firemen at different stations. I should be talking to the lead of the fire service in the Hamilton Waikato area. That's my point of contact. That's the approach I take.
Thank you. And finally, with the proposal to delegate authority to the Mayor and Deputy Mayor to approve the submission, so item D, can we, or can you note in that submission that it was not approved by the full council?
Well, it's being proposed to give us delegated authority. If you disagree with that, you can vote against this motion.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Mayor Paula, in terms of your report made some comments and wait, am I in the right place around water meters, right?
Volumetric charging?
Yes.
Yes.
Volumetric charging. I'm just interested in, I guess, with all of the changes on foot and there's more and more evidence showing that this issue is becoming more urgent. How do you have any thoughts on how we should be proceeding with having further conversation around timing and how we talk to the community about the issue?
Yes, I've started a lot of conversation with staff around this. Andrew or Blair, you might want to talk. Don't forget we're doing a piece of work around that, that we set aside budget, not to put meters in, but to explore how this should occur. I agree with you. We need to start having conversations with the general public about why and when and if and all of that kind of thing with meters. So we have had some talk with staff in terms of their communications plan or their stakeholder engagement plan that the Water Advisory Group saw, and I've been working with my staff to understand how I can best reach and communicate with the public so that there are no nasty surprises as we've had in the past, that we can in fact actually talk about this in a rationalised and research-based, evidence-based way. So yeah, you may have some views in debate on that, but that's the approach we've got so far. It's certainly water meters light approach at the moment. It's exploratory, not implementation. So.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's it. Any more questions for me? No? So there are some recommendations. Thank you for those good questions. There are some recommendations. We've made a change to F, noting it should say C. Yes? Excellent. And there is an amendment to the recommendations for the conference. Okay. Is there, oh, we're going to debate. I will debate. Am I? Seconder is, oh yeah, and Deputy Mayor is the seconder for my report. Thank you. Just a little bit of debate. It's been a really busy month actually for me, but a really interesting one because not having meetings, I've been able to go and do some stakeholder engagement in a deeper way. So I'm really, really grateful to the fire service for that excellent meeting. I think when you do see the presentations and the slides and the data, you will find it as fascinating and interesting as I did. And we absolutely have a role in conveying to government the needs of our emergency services, including fire services. I'm quite I'm not ecstatic, I'm happy with the process that we're going through with transport. And actually, a piece of good news is that green light priority work that we're doing with GPS, which is being trialled here. And the fire service here is pretty revolutionary in terms of their response times. So I think that's something that we should pat ourselves on the back over. In terms of the conference, all I want to say is this. The conference for me is a lot of work and preparation. I do represent the council formally as your mayor, carrying your votes for your remits to the membership. And I think that's important. You've also, in the past, endorsed me for those roles of responsibility, recognising the advantage we have to be in Wellington, close to ministers and in those forums. So you have endorsed me formally through this membership here to be the Metro Sector Chair, to be on the National Council, and I was on a resource management advisory group also that has now stopped. And so, you know, I think this is my core work. I don't understand why it should change now and be coming out of my professional development, which would leave me no chance at all to take anything that was professionally enriching, as many of you all have. And I'm a bit surprised by Ewan, just to say, because I know that you've advocated in the past saying, absolutely, you're the mayor, you should be doing the mayor's job. So I was just a little bit surprised by that. That's me, thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Paula. Firstly, I'll be supporting the recommendation for the 3 members to go via council resolution to the RGNZ. I think that it's absolutely appropriate that the mayor is there on our behalf. I think it would, if she wasn't there, it would look really bad. And we need the mayor there to vote in terms of our positions around remits. In terms of water meters, I think the issue is becoming more and more urgent. It's a difficult conversation to have, but I think we're at the point where we're really going to need to look at having that conversation with the community more urgently, because there are a whole heap of things coming at us which are really putting pressure around putting pressure on the issue of allocation. You know, one is looking at a different model of delivering waters, and if we are looking at a CCO and leveraging the ability to take on, I guess, to have a larger debt capacity and to be able to service the growth the city is seeing, then it's very likely that volumetric charging is going to be required of us. But also, you know, every time we go to get, we go to step up our allocation and apply for an increased allocation for the city, we have to show we're using the water efficiently, and that question is going to become more and more pertinent. And when we're looking at trying to open up industrial land and enable more residential housing, we're going to need further allocations of water to enable that, because we're already maxed out when you look at our current population growth and what we're allocated with our current consent. How are we going to go to a consenting authority and say, hey, look, we need more allocation when we haven't shown that we're using it as efficiently as possible? So this is going to put a huge handbrake on our ability to enable business and housing land as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other? Councillor Donovan.
Well, thanks, Mayor Paula. I just have a couple of points I'd like to make. Tony Alexander, the Westpac economist, I went to a presentation of his many years ago, and he said, what goes up will come down in regards to interest rates, you know, economic growth and so forth, which leads me on to where we're going at the moment. As Mayor Paula rightly so puts in her report, our city is growing and growing fast, and you know, I would add that growth is costing us more than probably what we know. I'm getting to the point now where I'm starting to think, you know, when government comes to us and demands certain changes, why don't we just turn around and say no thank you? I think we've got to take a more defiant stance around where we're being led in terms of costs incurred by our ratepayers. I'm a big fan of doing more with what we have. And I will remain an advocate for building up in terms of our city and not out in terms of development. That might strike a bit of a raw chord with some people, but I still believe, based on the people that I speak to and evidence that I'm collecting, suggests that that's a better way for us to go. City infrastructure deals, which I know are being floated at the moment, to me they can come cloaked as whatever they might like to be, but I think that they really just, for us, mean more costs and debt to manage, which we don't need right at the moment. Surely the last 6 months or so of deliberating and debating over long-term plan would add weight to that. I firmly believe we've got to change our narrative. We don't need growth. We need productivity and efficiency. So unless these deals come in the form of supporting us as a region, then my opinion is that we should hold firm. That's all I'd like to say on the Chair's report. Thank you.
Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Paul. First of all, I'd like to thank you for all the work you've done during July. I think a lot of us had a good break. Of course, we all picked up the slack where you were in Europe and in Croatia. And so we chose to take our break in the designated July period.
Thanks, Andy.
Water meters. Look, I religiously read my favourite newspaper, the Waikato Times, and I saw your stand on water meters, and I had a flash of, my gosh, I'm so pleased you're working or walking in that direction. I was disappointed at the time that yourself and the Deputy Mayor and others voted against putting funding for water meters, and that we decided to go with a slightly less robust process which enables us not to claim any of that cost in the overall capex that we know we're going to have to spend. And this is the problem with waters, is that politicians don't really want to fix the water equation because it keeps them really busy if they keep talking about waters, the problem about waters, and we're going to resolve the problem about waters. But actually none of us are making the tough decisions. And the tough decisions are about getting water meters now. That's a simple one. And how about Hamilton taking control and setting a direction over water rather than the way we've been continuously having this dialogue for years? Now, in terms of the attendance to the conference, I have always supported that the Mayor should attend. I have always felt that it's up to the Mayor whether they use their PD or it's ratepayer funded. And I have always supported new councillors going to the local governance conference. I think it's absolutely essential. I don't support city councillors going to the local governance conference where they've been before and the ratepayers required to spend. We spend a copious amount of money on local government New Zealand, and I'm astonished that the Mayor, with all the extra work you do, that the ratepayer is going to have to fund your attendance. But I wonder, in light of the trip to Belgium, ratepayer funded, whether or not it would be appropriate. Mayor Paula, you'll remind, please. You're on your phone, you're making mockery as I speak. These are the very things that you have raised in the past. Could I ask you to lift your standard to the same as you expect? My point is this. I'm asking you on behalf of the ratepayer, in light of the funded trip to Belgium, whether or not you should, which you didn't use any of your PD, whether or not you should use your PD to go to the annual conference. That's my question to you.
Yeah, no, fine, thank you. Councillor Bidder.
Thank you, Mayor Paul. While the Mayor is talking to the Fire Emergency New Zealand Board, the rest of us have missed an opportunity to review speed bumps with frontline firefighters in a transparent manner. Those of us who took up the offer of local frontline firefighters are aware of the problems, and the Waikato Times has a video showing just how bad it is. With the recommendations, I cannot support item D. If we don't have enough time, we need to address that with the government. The Mayor and Deputy Mayor do not represent the view of the Council, so I cannot delegate my authority of those I represent in this manner.
Casey Cox.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Paula, for a very comprehensive Chair's report covering so many issues. I lost count, but thank you so much. And I guess I just wanted to address just quickly the issue of emergency housing, because I think that's really significant that the numbers are reducing so much, and I know that's been widely recognised and celebrated. I do want to, however, note the concern that the demand for emergency housing isn't necessarily reducing. People are still coming through, whether it's through evictions or whatever course it might be, in need of emergency housing. So my concern with that particular topic, and I know we've had some email conversations also, is how we may be facing an increased homelessness issue going forward, and that's the reason the emergency housing came to be in the first place. So I'm just noting that and hoping that we can make further conversations with our MPs on that in that regard, and front foot the conversation before we get to some more of a crisis in that space, because I think homelessness is a concerning issue for all of us, and has impacts on all of us, and particularly the people who are homeless, obviously. But total Sarah's debate in regards to water and water meters, and very much support the three who have been recommended to go down to the LGNZ. Thank you.
Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Mayor Southgate. I'll be supporting the suite of your recommendations, apart from B, where I'll be supporting Councillor Wilson's amendment, which I think is a responsible course of action in terms of our costs and managing our costs, and surely that should be top of most of our minds at present. Look, I don't support LGNZ or our involvement in it. Last term I moved a motion that we review our membership of LGNZ, and it only pretty narrowly lost, really. I think they provided appalling advocacy for over 3 waters in the last term. And for what I've seen of them this term, in terms of open letters and media statements, I'm seeing a very left of centre organisation that seems to support the policies of the previous government rather than genuinely listening to what ratepayers want. And of course the ratepayers and the residents overwhelmingly elected a national-led government in the last election. So it's an organisation that I have nothing in common with and no affinity with whatsoever, and very little respect for. While we are still in LGNZ, I don't want to block my colleagues' opportunity to attend the conference, especially new councillors. I think that's fair enough. And I think Councillor McIndoe, it makes sense that we should send him by council resolution. I do agree that Councillor Moku, who's been before, should be using his own PD, as should the Mayor. And I think it's actually a good look. We should actually be seen to be sacrificing our own PD as much as possible in these situations, rather than using the council resolution. So I wholeheartedly support Councillor Wilson's amendment.
Anyone else? Councillor Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. It's good to be back. I can see we're all refreshed and ready to go. I had a wonderful break, thank you, and I appreciate all the work that you did. Your social media was littered with events and things that don't stop for the Mayor of the New Zealand's fastest growing city. Thanks for the Chair's report. There's a lot in there. I'll just comment on a few things. Obviously, as a seconder, I'm supporting all the recommendations. Sending only 3 councillors to our one and only industry conference is very light, and I think that that is a reflection of tight financial times. And I fully support Councillor McIndoe and Councillor Tawariki going. It's an amazing conference. I love going and I like connecting and learning, and you always come back with new ideas. I think this year more than ever there'll be some phenomenal overseas speakers that will enrich our decision making when we bring it back. So I'm a bit saddened that I'm not going, but for financial reasons, I think the 3 that are going is enough. Mayor Paula, you work incredibly hard. Of course you should go. We are a large metro city, and your absence would be extremely noted and questioned if you weren't going. On water meters, look, it's the gift that keeps on giving, and I reflect back to since you know yourself, Mayor Paula, and I were mentioned around not putting in capital money into the LTP. I thought at the time, and I still believe, that that would be predetermining a decision, and I don't think that that's fair financially for the ratepayers to have put in tens of millions of dollars until we know what Waters is going to do. And I remind us back in, I think it was 2013, how strongly some members, including Councillor Wilson, campaigned during election time against water metering. So it's good to see that we can all move and progress forward and change our minds. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McIndoe. Tim.
Thank you, Mayor Paula, and good to see you all. Firstly, I too believe that the time has come for water meters to be considered as quickly as possible by our council, and I do so because I believe that they are the fairest way of ensuring that charges are applied across the board, reflecting actual usage. I think that those who are modest users of water subsidising others who are heavy users, and I just don't see the fairness of that. I do want to thank all those who have spoken in support of my attendance at the Local Government New Zealand conference. I am optimistic that it will be a valuable experience, particularly given that I'm still a fairly new councillor. However, I'm uncomfortable with the idea that I should be singled out for special treatment, and therefore, if it is the feeling of the meeting, so I'm getting a message on my screen saying that my internet connection is unstable, so I hope you can all hear me. I was just going to say that if it is the feeling of the meeting that others should be using their professional development budget rather than, I'd be comfortable with that being the way that my trip was funded as well. I'm a little uncertain though as to how that really makes a difference, in as much as I think that ultimately it is still coming from the rate. But I just want to make that offer if that will help come to an agreement that everybody is comfortable with.
In right of reply, actually, I just want to say that last point was really well made, a bit cutting in and out. But in fact, whether you pay from professional development or from budget by resolution, it is paid for the ratepayer. And some people, and I'm not going to play personal politics here, some people have fully expended their professional development across a range of things, including business courses and other things. And that's reasonable because we should be at the top of our game professionally. So I'm not going to make any low digs on that one. But I think the point is made. It's money spent. We must have an appearance at the conference. You know, there's part of me who's had such a busy year. I'd love to sort of stay behind and have a nice quiet August. But I do need to be there because some of the issues we're facing are critical. And I want to take your voice, Council, down there. I want to take your voice for the remits, which we're coming to soon. Just in terms of waters, I just want to make a point in support of what Angela said there, Deputy Mayor Angela said, which is we decided not to put the CapEx in for meters for two reasons. Firstly, there's such a lot of detail to come out in the next bit of legislation from government, and we're going to have an LTP annual plan amendment early next year. The second thing is we all noted, and Sarah raised it in her questioning, that we have not had the conversation with the public. I'm sure the headline on the Waikato Times, which was nice and provocative around it, would have stimulated their interest greatly. It would mine if I were reading it. And now we need to have that conversation about the why, the when and the how. And, you know, look, we know, Jeff made comments about the previous term, we know how difficult it was to talk with the public about water because it's exceptionally complex. So very complex and so highly emotive also. So, you know, look, that's another good reason to go down to conference because I guarantee that funding and waters will be two of the big topics. So I'm asking for your support to get me to conference on your behalf and to support Moko in his portfolio also. We'll go to the vote.
doing it on the
We're doing it online, but it's not coming up yet, just yet. Is it? No?
voting is not started, apparently.
Okay, there we go. Okay, thank you. Except everything's at B, the conference. Mm.
Reset.
Pardon?
We're just going to reset.
Reset. Okay. Go again, please, team. Thank you. Come on, Sarah. Are we having morning tea after this or what?
11. The motion is carried, noting that Councillor Bidder is dissenting. Councillor Tim, could you just go back to your little indicator to confirm that you're in favour? Are you voting with Ewan's amendment to use professional development?
So, I don't know whether you can hear me, but I've lost the audio, and I lost it about 2 minutes ago, which is making it difficult to follow what is happening.
Just one second. What we're voting on is the Councillor Wilson-Taylor amendment to B, which is that the costs of conference come from, that we only approve your costs to attend the LGNZ from flights, from resolution, conference by resolution. That was a bit clumsy.
Right, and everybody's voted on that.
No, we're waiting for you. So it's that, this is that your costs be approved by conference by resolution.
Could I just query, because as I say, I lost the audio, if I were to vote against this, would I effectively be saying that I would be treated the same way that you,
No,
Mayor
not
Paula,
necessarily.
and Councillor Moko would be treated?
That's not, that has no resolution attached with it.
Yeah, I'm sorry that, as I say, just because I've lost the audio for some time. But okay, well, I will vote. I have voted.
Okay. Where are we at?
The motion is lost. 6-4-8 against.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Let's go.
Amendment is lost now to the motion.
Let me go to the motion, which was the original B. Okay, if we can all vote.
There was no delay. There was no looking at government's delay. We're trying real hard.
So we should celebrate that.
Councillor Tim?
He's a yes. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I have voted.
I need you to use your tick button, please.
I did.
For the last one you did, I need you to, thank you. The motion is carried 11-4-3 against.
Tim, just to let you know what might be happening.
I've got no audio again.
We're now on to the Local Waters Done Well report, and then we're going to have a shared after morning tea. Yep. Yeah.
Just for Tim, sometimes when you have difficulties with the technology. If you turn off your video, your audio is much easier.
Did you hear that, Tim? If you turn off the video, you might get better audio. Try it. He's talking and he's muted. You're muted, by the way. You're muted. Technology. Right, cool. Thank you. Sorry. Good morning, Andrew and Peter. Yeah?
Kia ora, good morning. I hope this report is reasonably straightforward and can be taken as read. In essence, we're seeking to ensure that we have one coordinated approach to thinking about changes to rates that combines what we need to do in response to local water done well with the prior resolution that you had to explore a set of possible changes to the rating framework through an LTP amendment. So the proposition is that we treat that as one stream of work given the significant interdependencies between them and accordingly seeking a change to what was the Waters working group to ensure that we've got a broader suite of political oversight and engagement as we work through what's going to be quite a complex number of possible changes to the rating system to unscramble water charges from within the general rate and to address the other issues that you had identified in the rating system.
Which proposed with the existing water group. Do you want to step through the names of those, just so we confirm, so everybody remembers who the water advisory groups, and I've added 2 names in consultation, which is Jeff and Anna. That's my proposal anyway. Who are the ones in the water group, please? Can we just, someone call them out so we've got all the names so you understand exactly who's doing this work? Yeah, I know I am. Angela is, Maxine, Sarah, Tim, and that's it. Okay? And Jadine. Okay, so that's who's going to represent you in this joint work. Excellent. I'm happy to move it. Angela will second. Do we need any debate? I mean, this is all flowing water. Well, you know, so sometimes it's a torrent and sometimes it's a trickle. We can never tell on any given month, can we, where we're at with this? But all right, I'm not going to debate. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Anybody else would like to debate? I reserve my right to reply should I need it. No, let's go to the vote.
The motion is carried unanimously.
Okay, excellent. Citizens initiated referenda. Item 8. Who's speaking with this?
I'll move that we retain it, and Councillor Jeff will second.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Option 1. Your option 1. Oh, are you going with option 1, which is the attachment 2, right? Just want to make sure. Or are you retaining the current? Can you? I just want some clarity on which one he's doing. Anyway, we can go into the conversation.
Well, it's option 1 with the minor, because they were very administrative minor changes.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk to Mish. Do you want to highlight anything? I think it's always pertinent to highlight the changes anyway.
Thank you, Mayor Paula. The report sets out the ability for council and communities to demand polls in certain circumstances. The link to this policy is that there is the ability at central government level for citizens-initiated referenda. There's no equivalent that compels councils at the local government level. That's outlined in the report. the amendments that have been made to the policy are quite, they're really just tidying things up and aligning them with the current strategic framework that council has. That really sums up the amendments that have been proposed as part of the options, and I'll otherwise take the report as read, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions from me, and no, there's many more questions. I'll start with you. They all came in. Councillor Naidu Rove.
Had one out of curiosity, Mish. Have we ever had one of these happen?
Yes.
When and
Fluoride.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, citizens initiated. No?
Initiated by citizens, but one that came through council, and council supported a referendum on fluoride. That's
When an elected member does it, I think we're counted as a citizen anyway, aren't we? Yeah.
all right, but
We
yeah.
are
So
human,
yeah.
even when we're old and have to wear glasses.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of questions, that answered your question, Councillor Casey Cox.
And around, we're one of the few councils that have got this policy. What do the other councils do, or why are we different?
This policy was first put in place in 2013, which is before my time. I think that some other councils simply, they don't see the need for the policy. You might find that some of the smaller councils don't think that it's needed, but it's honestly it's a policy decision for councils, and they may simply have not had the topic come up.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Helped? Yep, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Paula. Mish, just want to be super clear around the threshold. So, in order to actually kind of force a referendum, then you would need 10% of the population, not just 10% of enrolled voters. Is that?
One moment, I'll just have a look at the exact wording.
So it'd be like 18,000 signatures, just.
It's a further petition containing signatures from not less than 10% of Hamilton residents being on the electoral roll.
Then it says with a minimum of not less than 10% registered Hamilton voters, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I think somewhere else it said population, which confused me. So how many people would then you need to sign a petition? How many registered voters do we have?
Amy, do you know how many registered voters we've got?
Yeah.
Oh, right. 121. So you'd need
Yeah,
12,000.
Around 12,000 people would need to vote. Sorry, sign a petition.
Sign a petition. Okay, thank you. That's
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Paula. Mish, there was, how many of the large metros have a referendum policy? I only raise that because someone, a good colleague has raised or suggested that very few councils have it.
Can we come back to that question, Councillor? I'll just ask one of the team.
Right, okay. Second question, I think I understood in your narrative that one of the reasons some don't is because anybody could trigger a referendum at central government.
Yes.
Can you expand on why you believe that's full democracy versus local democracy done well? Can you explain why an individual with a local issue in a local council would be served well in a democracy by having to go to Wellington and trigger a national process?
I'm not
Because you suggested it.
Yeah, the report tries to outline the difference between local and central processes. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. There's simply not the ability at a local level for a citizen to demand a poll on anything that's not already provided for in quite a narrow set of circumstances under legislation that affects local government.
And could that be why Council 2013 chose to do it, because it's more democratic?
Potentially.
Okay, thank you.
That's covered in I suppose, the considerations in the report, that the policy allows for a more direct way to influence. It's not, what's the word that I use? It's not engagement. It's effectively a more, I'm just looking for the words that I used, Councillor.
Empowering?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh.
So it does, but
Trying to be helpful there, Paula.
there's the international models around consultation and communication, and empowering is one of the terms that's used as part of that, and that kind of spectrum of decision making, from informing people through to handing over decision making altogether. So the policy supports an empowering model for decision making with the community. But it very much is a council decision as to whether that is something that you want to do.
Right, and you're still going to try to get how many councils actually have the policy?
Carmen's just come back to me and said she thinks that there is one, but she hasn't said who.
One other?
Yeah, that has a specific policy.
Like ours?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Questioning too. Mine's a little bit community focused. And hopefully I'm on point, but does the community know about and understand the options that are available to them, and is it very clear, would be my question, because we learn a lot in this role, and I'm learning every day, and challenges are just new opportunities to learn more.
You're full of it today, aren't
I am, yes, I'm well rested, thank you, Jeff. Yes.
Profound.
There was a question in there, I think.
Yeah. The policy is on the website. I suppose if someone is quite passionate about what they're doing, if they've come to us, say for an example, say with a petition under standing orders, then that might be the next step for them. If they're not happy with the response that they get from council, then they can be pointed in that direction and say, if you've got the significant community support for the thing that you want to do, then you can look at that.
Oh, that's good, thank you. That clarifies what I was thinking.
Tauriki?
Are you able to step us through what a starting point of a referenda looks like in a practical sense for our council, leading up to a decision?
If you decide to hold a referendum, then what you are doing is you're initiating a process under the Local Electoral Act 2001, and essentially the council would request a report come up to, excuse me, to it, with a resolution to direct its electoral officer to undertake a referendum. And once you give that directive to your electoral officer, the electoral officer starts to work through a whole heap of different processes that sit in the Local Electoral Act. And then it essentially, like a local body election, it sits with them until the results come back, and then we report the results back to the council.
How long could that process take?
From start to finish, we look at 89 days for a by-election, so kind of around the same kind of time frame probably to get from woe to go, go to woe.
Can I take a question and then come back to you? If that's okay. Just want to, before I lose my thread, a couple of things I'm interested in is we already have the provisions and we are forward thinking, as Ewan has pointed out, in our standing orders and so on. So this new one, would it duplicate or would it replace? Are there any duplicate processes that people can bring legitimately their concerns to the table?
There's less direct processes that people can use, so they could bring a petition under standing orders.
That's right.
Which is one avenue. Your standing orders currently simply say that you have to receive the petition and you don't actually have to do anything else with it.
And the petition's got to be validated, right? Completely validated. We've had a few petitions over the last 2 years that haven't been properly able to be validated. That's correct, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I suppose if you get to the petition stage and you don't get what you were looking for, if you don't have the policy, then the next avenue open to you really is to go away and get more signatures, or to lobby your local councillors and try and get their support to bring the matter to the table. So those would be your more indirect options in terms of trying to get something like this in front of the council for a decision.
Okay. The other, I notice on paragraph 22 of the report, the other question I have relates to costs. Is it correct that depending on the referendum and the nature of the work that might be required, etc., that we could lose a little control of our budget? It could add budget line that we weren't anticipating.
Potentially. The costs that we put in there, we've emphasised, are very much an indication, and it would depend on the timing, and we would be going back to our electoral officer to get costs. Obviously, if you line a referendum up with an election, which I believe the fluoride one was, then because postage and printing are the
I suppose I was
biggest part
going
of
at the wider issue with point 24, and I'll come back to that, which is staff time and is the cost of actually doing a referendum, the postage, the process, etc. And then depending what the topic is, there could be considerable staff pressure or time having to be costed to that work. I mean, there was with fluoride, I'd imagine, because you had to digest a whole spectrum of information, right? So staff would have worked really hard on that. Do we know what that cost? Just interested to know.
It's quite a while back, wasn't it? I think.
How much did the referendum on fluoride cost council? I was just interested to know.
Yeah, well, I think it was like in the 30,000. It was a lot less than the projected 60,000 here, because it was at the election time.
I'm talking about the staff time and research and work. Depends what, but pretty much, am I right to say, I mean, Sean, you can answer this if you like, if a referendum came in on a complex issue, it could cost significant staff time and put pressure on their workload.
I think it's fair to say that that's probable, but we face that anyway, day to day, with a lot of issues and policy decisions or issues that come up that staff have to investigate. So that is a part of the normal course of work. If I could add while I'm speaking, the thing about the policy, as I see it, is it provides people in the public who do want to put a submission forward for a referendum, it gives them a level that they have to reach so that they know that that's what it's going to take to really be effective in terms of getting that done. And finding that level is important, and that will help people decide the degree of effort that they put into it.
So this rework of the policy provides those baselines, do you think? Just last question, I noticed, I can't remember, you have added a paragraph somewhere about if the costs, we can delay dealing with it, if the costs, did I see a line? I thought I saw a line.
You're correct, Mayor Paula. There has always been a provision to allow council to try and manage some of its costs. So if someone asks for a referendum at the start of a triennium, probably a little bit harder to say we'll leave it till the next election to hold it, but if you're kind of within cooey of an election, you might say, actually, we're not going to do this right now, we're going to add it on to
Right.
next election. So there is a little bit of flexibility built into the policy to allow the council to try to manage the costs as best as it
Yeah.
can, or how it sees fit.
Okay, cool, thank you. That's my question. Councillor Wilson?
I wonder if you could help answer these following questions. How many signatures do you need to bring a petition under the standing orders?
150 validated signatures, yes.
So relatively low barrier to entry.
I would say so,
Okay, thank you.
relatively speaking, given the size of the city.
And really, a petition for a referendum, let's go back. When you get a petition, council doesn't actually have to do anything with it.
Correct.
When you get a petition that has 12,000 signatures on it requesting a referendum, council has to do something about it.
Its policy says that council has to do something about it, but it is still your policy that you could
not do it.
You could ignore if you felt the need. I would say that if you have 12,000 people, though, that would be something to think about quite carefully before you made a decision.
So that was my point. In your experience, if a petition has 12,000 signatures wanting a referendum, is that quite a high barrier to achieve? After all, we get a few thousand voting in by-elections. 12,000. In your experience, is that hard to achieve?
I don't know that I could.
That we've already talked about the threshold, with all due respect, Ewan, so I think you could talk to that in your debate, because I hear where you're going with that thought. Any other questions?
There just seemed to be a lack of understanding as to the process, Mayor Paula. So I was trying to differentiate between a normal petition and a petition for a referendum.
Okay, we're going into debate.
One last question. There is nothing in legislation that you're aware of, or question, is there anything in legislation that would limit council to say, if there is a successful petition demanding a referendum, to not to delay it till the next election or by-election to save costs? Is there any piece of legislation that says council, having got a referendum request, must do it within?
Yeah, under your policy, there isn't.
Thank you.
The report outlines a set of very narrow circumstances where, if the community do demand a poll, that you have an obligation to undertake it within a certain time frame. The ones that I've noted are around polls on representation and also the local government reorganisation.
Right.
If it falls outside that kind of specific framework and it's a poll on everyone painting their houses pink, there's nothing to hold you to a particular time frame.
Excellent, thank you.
It's been moved, it's been seconded. We'll go to the debate.
Thank you, Mayor Paula. At the very heart of our democracy is the ability for people to participate. And the reason why this is so important is that it's used infrequently, but when it is used, it reflects a huge reaction from the very community we represent. Now, often we talk in this chamber about trying to encourage people to participate in local democracy. We use it to defend the reasons we have wards. We go out and we consult. So why on earth would we want to remove, why would we want to remove a foundation principle of enabling a person to trigger a referendum. And it isn't easy. Let me tell you, it's not easy to get 12,000 signatures. It's not easy to get 12,000 people to look, and they have to be certified. It has to be legit. They have to be on the electoral roll, right? It's not just something done in Garden Place. It's a significant undertaking. So I would be horrified if this council was to remove that fundamental democratic right. And it would be hypocritical, because on one hand we talk about the importance to teach civics in schools, we wax on about the importance of engagement, getting people to participate in elections, but we're going to remove the right. We're going to remove the right to trigger a referendum. That would go against the entire principles. And just because only 2 cities in New Zealand think it's important isn't a justification for not doing it. In fact, maybe all the other cities have it wrong.
Councillor Pike.
Thank you, Mayor Paula. I'd just like to start by thanking staff for their work on this report and for Mish's continued, wherever she's gone, support in this area. Look, I really treasure that there's a space for residents to put forward a referendum for something that they strongly believe in. And with the 10% and 12,000 voter threshold, I think this ensures that there's enough support and will in the community to get an issue to council without it being viewed as a wasted expenditure. And while there is a central government avenue, I think preserving a local option is important, as some issues are more regional, and also I think some may feel more comfortable to exercise their democracy at a local level than they would bringing it forward to central government. So I will be supporting Councillor Wilson's motion today. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Southgate. Yeah, look, I support keeping this opportunity for people, and I must admit, when I first read it a few days ago, I was confused, because I thought, well, why on earth would we want to take this away anyway? It just didn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. You know, I think there should always be that opportunity, if there's something really big, for the population to mobilise themselves, and there should be an avenue for them to push it and to have a chance of success. And you know, this is the way at present where they can have some chance of that happening, where they can go to all that effort and feel that they're going to be listened to. And as Councillor Wilson says, there's a sizable chunk of people needed. It's not a frivolous thing. You know, this isn't something that's going to happen twice a month. It's a big deal. You know, it's a 1 in 10 year thing or something like that. So I think it's absolutely something that we should keep and that we should have available in the rare situation where it's needed. And I think it'd be really wrong to remove it, and and anti-democratic. So let's keep it, and let's not shut out that opportunity if it ever is needed. Thank you.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Paula. Yeah, I think that at some point, I'm not sure who put this up from previous council, but they felt passionate enough to put this policy up, and I don't see a good reason to be removing it. I think that while there is a significant cost to a referendum, there is also a very significant threshold to force a referendum, and I think that if you do have 12,000 people in the community asking for us to consider an issue seriously, then there's clearly a big issue within the community that would probably warrant that kind of response. So, and I think having actually a clear number there is helpful too, because then we don't end up with people coming to say we want a referendum, but there's no clarity around at what point we would say, yeah, there's enough people to reach that. So it gives a really clear threshold and a clear expectation to the community, and I think that's helpful. Ultimately, yeah, a referendum's expensive. It's not something we want to undertake regularly, but I'm comfortable with the 10% threshold being enough to ensure that it has to be a very significant issue that if a lot of people feel passionately about to get it on the table. Yeah.
I'm going to support this one also. I did want to just explore the cost factor, because I think it's expedient of us to do so always. If we make a change to anything, we should be asking how much is this going to cost. I've made increasing public engagement and involvement a priority since I started 4 years ago. I wish people would participate more and more in more ways that we can formally respond to, and discuss and debate and go through the process, and this is one of those ways. We absolutely must provide good avenues for democracy, and we must get citizens to take more of a lead in their community. So in that respect, I'm happy to go with this one. We'll go, anybody else? Right to reply, Ewan? Shall we go to the vote? It is. It's going to be 11, but we're making good time. You jinxed it, Louise. You jinxed it. We're going, thank you. No, not.
The motion is carried unanimously.
Thank you, everyone. We're going to have a break, Tim, so we're going to have a morning tea. So we'll see you shortly, unless you're not back with us. We've just got remits. So thank you very much for being part of this meeting. It's really hard when you're overseas to do that, and we appreciate it. Thank you. Mish will talk through in a minute. I just want to make some overarching comments. I would like to take this by exception. So any ones that we do need to discuss or pull out or something like that, and then we can probably do it as a suite, move them as a suite in an ideal world, Amy, so hopefully. Can I just start as one of the National Council representatives, giving you an insight into how and why National Council is tackling remits the way they are. We had a lot of conversation because I think Deputy Mayor's made this comment before, and Sarah definitely has, around remits that have gone on in previous years, and do they get fully dealt with, and where are they in the system? And as a result, I instigated a quarterly report on remits that comes out through LGNZ to the wider membership, because I felt that it was important that the wider members understood what LGNZ was doing with them. There's a lot of work on that's still in progress from last year's remits and priorities, and the trouble is if they don't get done, they can slip away until they're popped up again, if you know what I mean, and other ones come in over the top. So there's been a genuine intent to have a conversation about priority and focus, because LGNZ can't do everything for everyone all of the time. Set against that, of course, is the consideration of local democracy and the right for people to bring their issues to the table based on their local experience and knowledge. So we've had that conversation there. We are steering the membership towards having a more thoughtful consideration of remits before they put them up, and to understand that not all things will be given the same priority. Because we already have some live remits, and one of those is around GST, one of them is around 4-year terms, and there's a bunch of other things that are still in progress. So what we've got here is the result, because I can assure you that in previous years we've had double this amount of remits to consider. So, you know, Local Government New Zealand is being a little bit more expedient. Apart from voting, whether you have to give me a steer, whether you want me to vote in favour, against, or abstain, and somebody asked me at morning tea why I abstain or something, and that's because local government has the provision to abstain. We don't, but I could at the conference abstain. The other new bit is the bit that you've highlighted in your report around the priority ranking. You'll see it in the Local Government New Zealand attachment. I'm intrigued as to how that's going to work. So we're going to vote for all the remits, and then we're all going to rank them 1 to whatever it is, in terms of what we would like local government to focus most on. I suspect that'll be a bit of a lumpy process, but it'll be an interesting one. I'll hold back my judgment on that one. That was a result of the National Council just saying we need to make clearer priorities, and that's the process that staff have given us to do that. So in everything that we put up here, we need to have that same lens. How doable, how realistic, how doable, how much of a priority is it at this time to put upon Local Government New Zealand? How much do we need their representation on this? So that's my overarching comment. Thanks, Mish. You want to make any?
Thank you, Mayor Paula. The remits come through each year, and I don't really have anything to add to the report at the moment, so I'll take that as read, and if there are any questions, happy to take them and answer as best we can.
Yeah. So any ones that, get to discussion, any ones that you would like to talk about in specific, and any ones that we can just go to vote on? It's a bit messy, I think.
Just butting in, just in terms of the comment that you made about ranking, you know, today we're talking about whether we are in support or not of these, but to be clear, we're not putting them into any kind of ranking order at this stage, or is there the opportunity to be able to?
It's a very good question, Maxine.
Yeah.
I was only, I don't know. It's the first time that we have ever had to rank at conference. Therefore, it's the first time that I've ever had to have this conversation with council as to ranking. So kind of a little bit in your hands about that. I think the best thing is to give me a steer through your debate or your points about what things are most important to you. I have some that are really reasonably important to me. Goods and services tax, for example, I see as a priority, but another one I don't see as much of a priority. So, but can you imagine doing this with 15 members, and then can you imagine doing it with the entire membership of Local Government New Zealand on the day? It's going to be fun, team. So anybody want to pull anyone's out?
I guess I've indicated that I have some questions first, but currently I want to pull out 3 and 4. A couple of questions of Mish, first of all. Sure.
Are there any others that warrant specific conversation and dive in? And then just give me a help. Yep, 6. 6. I'm trying to remember my Roman numerals. Sarah? Pardon? Yep. Okay.
Well, one of the times we did this, we just went through each remit and everyone did a simple yes or no. That seems like quite a good process, and we do one single debate and then we just go through each one.
Yeah,
and go,
yeah. But I didn't want to go through each one if I didn't have to.
I think
So
that would be
I was going to go by
easier-
exception. Because it can take hours, Sarah, each one.
But we wouldn't be debating
No,
each one
no,
separately.
the
it would
questions
simply
can-
just be boom, boom,
Well, I'm in
boom,
your
boom.
hands. Hands up if you would prefer to step through each and every one of these in the first instance.
Just debate by exception.
Debate by exception and ask questions.
One debate overall.
Yeah, one debate overall. Okay, questions. So questions
Yes.
on the remits. It's just handy for me to know when I form up a motion which ones I would exclude or do separately. Ewan.
Yeah, thanks. Mesh, I'm just trying to get my head around the delegation we're giving the mayor to cast the vote. I'm assuming that has to be on the basis of a resolution of council.
Yes, it does in this case.
Thank you. Well, yes, because she's making a decision reflecting that, yeah, okay. How do we then grapple with the portion of the resolution that says, although I've interpreted it to be, the last sentence, that the delegate may duly take into consideration additional information received on the day to inform the final vote on behalf of council. That, in my opinion, may lead to the mayor casting a vote in the opposite direction of the instructions she has received from council. Can I have your legal view on that? That appears to be ultra vires, because the Local Government Act requires decisions to be made based on resolutions, and the mayor can't arbitrarily bind council to a policy. So can I just have your legal interpretation of that sentence?
I think we've included this in previous reports, and it was meant to be to provide some flexibility if there was some significant information that wasn't provided as part of the remits. I would say that it would be more likely if there was a change to a remit that would actually commit a specific council to doing something, rather than
That's not how
rather
the
than
wording.
any other position.
Yeah, so
It isn't worded that way, and I would say that the mayor and staff are in council's hands if you want to simply say this is how we are voting, and
Well, I'm just
leave it like that.
I'm legitimately just trying to get total transparency and not leave anything up to ambiguity. Currently, the way it's worded, I can't support any of it because I don't believe, actually, it's legal, right? I mean, my interpretation is, correct me if I'm wrong, the mayor is taking instructions from council, and we determine that as a resolution, right, that we're going to pass here today. We're instructing the mayor, this is our position. But then you contradict that by saying, oh, but, yeah, so...
Your question is clear.
From a legal perspective, there's nothing wrong with the resolution. I suppose the uncertainty around it is how anyone who is given that specific writing instructions, I suppose, is going to interpret it.
So do we have a, thank you, so do we have a legal opinion on that? Because what, I mean, are you saying that in fact the Mayor does not need a resolution of council to cast a vote?
The resolution of council is what provides the authority to cast the vote. And if your resolution says this is what we support, but if you have other information on the day that means that you think that it's in the benefit of council to do something different, then you can do so.
Surely, surely the delegate should come back to council for the change.
Not if you don't require the person to.
Right.
And
So-
the way that this is worded is you're not requiring the person
Correct.
to come back.
And I guess what I'm saying is, I have a fundamental problem with that sentence, and I'm inviting the meeting in good spirit to amend the wording so that it doesn't give the delegate the opportunity to vote any way they see fit.
Only see if it would be helpful, and I'm not sure if it does. I mean, there's a lot of delegated authority, right? And we've just done one this morning where council's climate. How does it sit with that? I mean, actually, to be honest, Ewan, it's never happened. I've never voted against the wishes of council, but there are provisions for being the mayor and being the leader of something that where you are delegated on behalf of the well-being of council to potentially change or do something,
Sure.
right? How does that fit? Do you understand my question? Was it a bit lumpy?
What I'm trying to say is that you're giving the person who is voting the ability to act within the delegation that you have given them, whatever that delegation
Sort of like
says.
Nixon. Because I'm the president, I can't be held liable.
So if you give them a delegation that has the ability for them to exercise some discretion, then they can do so. If you don't give them the ability to exercise discretion, then they can't. So it comes down to the wording of the delegation that you give.
All right.
The way that this is worded is fine, if that is what you want to do.
And that is
And
not.
so you've signalled something, so
yeah,
let's come
so
back to
I'm
that.
gonna-
I will come back to it.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's go through questions. Councillor Hutt.
Sorry. I just wanted to clarify, we can in theory support all of them? Like, there's not a maximum number of remits we can vote for?
You can support all of them or none of them or some.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that. That was all.
That's
Thompson?
I would also like to pull out the driver licence one.
Okay, driver license, which is 5, right? Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go through those ones that we've indicated we want to talk to. We'll come back to the idea of delegated authority, to what extent council wants to enable that, before we go to the vote. So we had...
That would be absolutely essential because...
Yeah, I've agreed to it, so we'll come back to it.
Because we would be voting
I've agreed to
totally
it.
differently.
Well,
The
yeah.
motions would be different.
I've agreed to doing it before the vote, so that was good. Councillors, questions around local government constituencies and wards and the referendum at 3 was asked to be pulled aside. This is just questions at the moment, not debate. So questions on that item. Any? No? Questions on...
Yes, I've got a question, Mayor Paul.
Thank you.
So, Mish, in light of the fact that the government, central government, the current government, not Parliament necessarily, has the right to legislate for such activities, we can't have local government can't have a policy that's opposite to statute, right?
This is in relation to the remit number 1?
No, I'm sorry, are you on number 1? I'm on number 3. I thought you said local.
Are we?
I apologise.
Sorry.
No, Mish was just turning her mind to it. She was still on 1.
I've caught up.
You need more chocolate.
The short answer is that with the representation reviews, they're very prescriptive. They're set out under the Local Electoral Act, and we are obliged to follow that process.
So what's the point of in light of that, of local government trying to interfere with what is clearly central government's decision-making process?
I would say that local government tries to interfere with central government on a regular basis on its process. Apologies for the flippant remark, but
no, it's actually very good. It's the most humour I've heard all day.
LGNZ can choose what it wants to lobby on with the support of its members, and this is one that it's picked up.
Yes, but I guess my point is the Act.
Question.
It became. Here's the question. The Act was passed just a few days ago.
And the question is?
That this issue is resolved. Legislation is in play.
This is not a question. This is a statement. Make a question, please.
I will. Mish, in light of the fact that the bill is now the Act, and it's been, I think it's going for royal assent in the next day or so.
It has been.
Oh, it's been.
Yesterday.
So why are we retrospectively trying to instruct the government who's already made a decision and they've enshrined in legislation?
Hang on a minute, but the simple answer to that is a remit has come forward from the membership of local government. We are required to consider it, and we are considering it.
Right, okay. So that's why I'll vote against it. Okay, thank you.
Questions on number 4? Questions? No? No questions?
By a
Same question, basically.
a supermajority of Parliament is 75%?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
You got a question on this one, please?
No, it's the same as I had for the last one, so I'll take the answer as being the same as you've already given.
So question, item 5, which is the graduated driver's licence one. Any questions? Question around 6, which is the unoccupied buildings. Anything you need to know on that? Anyone? Okay, excellent. So it's all going to be done in debate. So what we have not pulled out is 1, 2, and I will go through, 1, 2, 7. So I'm going to propose that we vote for those as a block in the affirmative, I presume.
Yeah, Paula, of course, you've still got to address my question on that sentence.
Yes.
So and I think others will be prepared to support you on those other ones, but with the removal of, we don't delegate you to, if new information is raised, then you either reach out for us for a resolution of council or you abstain.
Yeah. Okay, so just a bit of information on that. I'm happy to have some information on that. Mish, you're working on that, are you? Or who's going to speak to this?
Sorry, for clarification, the or abstain part, because we could go back to what we've done in the past, which is what's showing up on the screen now. And so notes the council has indicated to support.
Yep.
Sorry. And if we just, to be voted on by delegate at the
Perfect.
AGM.
Yep.
So if you're happy with just
I
go
am
back to
happy
that.
with that.
And we'll just strike out 3, 4, 5, 6, so that the first vote is that one, and then we'll consider the other ones.
Yeah, so we're just talking about the wider issue that just.
So I
make
guess
sure-
I'm asking you as the mover if you're comfortable. I mean,
Look, I am. I personally don't think it's necessary. There's got to be a high trust between council and the mayor. I would not go against the wishes. Mind you, you would never know because we press a button. I don't know how anybody votes across the whole conference. You know, you have to have trust in me. Hang on, it's not a criticism, it's just a comment.
I haven't said anything.
It's never happened in my knowledge. When I've been voting, it's never not happened, but people do get up and debate. That's part of the process. People speak to their motion, the seconder does. I think it's 2 in favour and 2 in opposition can get up and speak from the floor. And, you know, there is potential that something might come up at that point which makes you think, gosh, didn't realise this was going to cost $5 million, don't want to do it now. There might be, I'm just being facetious, and that gives you the opportunity to consider that. It also is a delegation of responsibility, which is not unusual in council across many portfolios, as I have said. I'm not going to die in a ditch on it. None of these give me, would I be changing from, it'd be a silly mayor to go against the wishes of their council, to be quite frank, and I wouldn't do it. But, you know, look, if it gives everyone else comfort, if the majority, I might just take a show of hands, if the majority is comfortable with the removing of that extra delegation to me, and if they are, we can proceed. Could you just put your hand up, please, if you're happy with that?
To remove that.
If you're unhappy with that, to remove that extra delegated authority. Pardon? Are you happy to remove the wording to the old wording?
Yep, very happy. Makes sense.
Anybody really unhappy that wants to speak to it about why? Yes.
In terms of the remits, our council is often asked to support any of them. I just wanted to be clear that we haven't already offered our support to any of those councillors bringing up. Thank you.
In that instance, there would have been a process.
So we're not one of 5 councillors.
No, we're not. If that had have happened, that had have had a prior process in which I would have asked you if you were happy for me to support that remit in the first place, but we haven't. Yes, Zone 2, which went through a process. Okay, I'm happy to remove those words just to make progress at this point in time. We're supporting 1, 2 and 7, Amy. Is there any debate on any of those? Oh, and 8. 1, 2, 7 and 8. Debate. I'll just start with, as the mover, and you're seconding that, just in terms of these. Oh, it's too late, but next one. Just in respect to this, because we're debating them as a whole, I just want to point out the goods and services tax. One is roundly supported by the wider membership of Local Government New Zealand, all the councils that I speak to. We know that government hasn't got a lot of money, but we also know we don't have a lot of money and we need new financial tools to be able to build the infrastructure that we need. So to me, that we must consider steadfastly on that one. In terms of community services card, don't hold a strong opinion, but from the councils who've spoken to me, it does cost them a bit of money when they have to, you know, when they don't have common verification for processes, and this would solve a lot of it. Don't have a strong view on the others either, so, but I'm happy to vote in favour. Anybody else want to debate those 4? Nope. Okay, let's go to the vote. Thank you. Thank you.
The motion is carried unanimously.
I would like to, the other ones have been taken out, I would like to move in support of 3. Is there a seconder for that? Deputy Mayor, thank you. Okay, thank you. We'll do these ones separately, if that's okay. So is there any debate? I don't need to debate. It's just... Oh, we had questions in the round before, but... No, but... Okay, I'll humour the question, please. Sorry.
In light of the fact that we have already passed a policy enabling referendums, how can we then, in good conscience, now vote to remove them?
That's a point for your debate.
No, I'm just asking legally.
Who would you like to ask? Mish, is there any reason?
This council, because here's the
No, let's
here's
not
the
go into
question of
the
governance.
reasoning. Let's ask the question.
In light of the fact that we've already made a resolution of council to vote in the absolute opposite direction, would now require a 75%.
Okay, so you asked the question?
Yeah.
Who would you like to
Well,
ask?
probably Amy, because she's
Amy?
probably more in... Sorry, Amy, do you want me to repeat the question?
Yes, please. Sorry.
Earlier today, we passed a resolution enshrining the rights for referendum. It's part of our policy.
For Hamilton City Council policy,
Yep.
yes.
Absolutely. And then on this issue, we are about to make a submission where we are asking local government to submit to central government removing the rights
On one issue.
on referendums.
Of their legislation, right? Versus our, it's more the different ownership of which part, so we can't. It
Mish,
wouldn't be a
there's no
revocation
reason
in
why this
case.
would be contradictory in terms of a legal position, is there?
Not, if we're looking at the decisions made by council, you don't need to, for example, try and recall or overturn your prior decision about HCC referendum because it's on a different subject altogether. That policy doesn't and can't cover referendum under the Local Electoral Act. Whether you feel it's consistent decision-making by council to do so or not is a matter for council to...
Okay. And on that, I rule that we go into debate on it and you'll be able to clearly express your view.
Just wrap everything in one debate, please.
We're going to do the ones that were pulled out because I don't
but
think...
one debate and then just vote on them all, each.
Yes.
So it's one debate now.
One
and
debate
then
on
vote
all
them each
the,
separately,
that's 3,
please.
5, oh, it's 3, 4, 5 and 6 with one debate.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Yep.
Just curious, as currently there is no government mandated process for referendum on other wards.
So question,
Yeah, so our policy that we renewed earlier, would that allow people to force us to have one through that policy rather than
Amy,
through central government?
Did you get that one? So Louise's question is, could we be forced to have a referendum on this topic, given the decision we
On
did?
other wards?
Other wards.
So other wards don't have a government mandate? Could, through our own policy, we be asked to have a referendum on those?
Yes.
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay. All right, we are going into debate. I just want to be really clear.
You've got to go through each of the items first.
Oh, yeah.
So I just
Yes.
need to work through all of the motions first to figure out what the motions are. So are we supporting for each?
Well, we don't. Yes, true. Okay, thank you, you're right, you're correct. I hate this. I hate remits. Every single year is a big mission to get through this. But anyway, so we've done 3. We've got a mover and seconder for 3. 4, is there anybody who's putting up 4? Or shall we vote in opposition?
Just a procedural question. Obviously, if you vote against something, I don't need to put an amendment. Clearly, just voting against it means that your position is you do not support.
Yeah.
We'll wrap up at the end. I'm going to have a wrap up.
Do I have a mover for in support or in opposition to the entrenchment of Māori seats for local government?
Yes,
I think Moko was first. What was yours?
yeah, I'm in support.
So in support and opposed?
Yes. That was the procedural question I just asked. I don't need to... I simply asked that if you vote against it, then and that succeeds, then it's just not an endorsement.
Yeah, we
rather
can do
than
it. We can
me
do
needing
that.
to create an amendment for each of these.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I'll
Stick
just
with the-
wrap it up with a
as we direct
final
opposite.
one.
Have you got a seconder? Seconder for Mockle, please. Thank you. And that's that one. And then we've got 5. Deterioration of unoccupied buildings. I'm happy to move that. Is there anybody who would like to second it? Sarah? Pardon? Oh, was it? Go back. Driver's license, sorry. Graduated driver's license. Somebody want to move that? No? So nobody wants to move it? Then we won't. We'll put a not.
At the end.
Hang on, it's not very
Sorry.
helpful to have everyone chiming in about how I could chair this, but I am trying to get through the mess. Yes, nobody supports moving it or seconded it, so I will move that we don't support it. Can I have a seconder? And we'll go to that one separately, Amy. Yes, seconder? Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah.
Paula,
Yeah.
having just done that, Amy, could you guide the Mayor on how best to manage this?
Ewan, could you let me run the meeting, thank you, and as I let you run yours? If we don't have a motion at all, does it just slip away? Because there was no mover or seconder.
Yeah, sorry, just what we were debating before was
The
whether if any of these ones lost, would we have to put up an amendment, or does Ewan have to do an amendment? And I said, no, what we can do is wrap up it right at the end. So if there's nobody that wants to support this one, I could just take it to the end wrap-ups option.
Yes, yeah,
If
and we don't have to not support it?
Exactly.
We don't have to not support it, we just
Because
say...
I'll do that in the wrap-up that says, notes that these are the items that are not.
So you'll just note it,
I'll do
the
that,
non-supported ones?
Yes.
Either which way works for me. Thank you. So 4, which is, God, I wish I could read properly. The unoccupied buildings, I've moved. Sarah seconded.
2 parts to it, and just to vote on the A and B separately, because I think one should be supported and one not.
Okay, we can. Can we? I don't know. I'm just looking at it. There's only one vote.
Apologies. What I was just going to say is there's only one vote at the actual AGM. They don't do the split, so although
No, so
what
the
you're
answer's
trying to
no. Yeah.
advise, it's not going to happen there, which is a complicated
Yeah,
part.
I understand.
Okay, cool. So it's been moved and seconded, and then I think I've got, that's it, is it? That's it. Okay, so, excellent. Oh, it's good that we don't have to actively vote against if it slips away. Okay, so we're going to debate on all of those all at once. As they actually have different movers in some instances, but I'm going to start the debate. Just say that I'm particularly, well, I'm not going to say very much about any of them actually. I support them. It goes to a democratic process of the wider membership of Local Government New Zealand, which I think is appropriate. We didn't put them up, but we can support them going through that process. Some of them have more priority for me than others. I'm not going to really go down into that, but I do have to say I do really support the deterioration of unoccupied buildings, because we've had some difficulties here in our own city about getting rid of things that are in a unhygienic vis-a-vis rats and mice and goodness knows what else, or a fire hazard condition, or just a genuine eyesore. And Hamiltonians do not like that. They do not like it, and they let us know straight away that they do not like the state of that in their neighbourhood. And the fire services would quite often like to have a more proactive council on that regard, so that they don't have to go through the assessment of fire hazards and make some kind of response to us. That's all that I would like to talk about. Councillor Tauriki.
I want to speak quite specifically to the local government constituencies and the entrenchment of the Māori wards. I think that our council is a very progressive council in comparison to many other councils around the country. I think I've had a good look at that, and I think that we're potentially going backwards if we're not continuing to advance a good te tiriti relationship that we've been able to that this particular council has been able to embody and to model for many other councils. And so therefore I'd like to think that the supports for number 2 up there in particular the first one, would be supported in terms of the local government constituencies would not be of any great issue given the vote that we did have this morning. I think we can agree that there are some grey areas in there. I recognise some of the challenges that the entrenchment of Māori wards could have for some of my colleagues around the table, potentially all of you around the table. The day that we get to entrenched Māori wards is the day, in my opinion, that race relations no longer becomes an issue of debates. I believe that we do a great justice to our nation when we begin to remove debates around what some might call privilege, some might call rights. And I think this is the grey area that is often misunderstood amongst elected members, politicians, and that's largely because of education. And so my focus at this particular time, Mia, is to support the motion of local government constituencies and the entrenchment of Māori wards.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Paul. I am taking an opposite position on those 2 exact items. And can I point out the glaring hypocrisy? On the first one, we're saying we want to support local government, going to central government and saying local government consistencies and wards should not be subject to a referendum. So we in local government want to instruct central government to remove the democratic right of individuals to trigger a referendum. Sounds very undemocratic. And then the hypocrisy is, in the next one, we're saying we, local government, want to tell central government that you must entrench the existence of Māori wards for local government. It is a hypocrisy. Race relations in New Zealand will find harmony when it lands on a simple premise. One person, one vote. It's called democracy. And the suggestion that there is a narrative about rights and that the way to resolve that is through education is also very self-serving and convenient. The reality in New Zealand, like most other democracies, although mana whenua have a unique status, it should not elevate them to the point where they need to have protections such as Māori wards. Māori are more than capable of standing on their own 2 feet, on running for election and winning. This chamber have been full of Māori who have done just that. They didn't need Māori wards. And they did a great job. They worked hard. They convinced the people. It's called a democracy. So I can't support those 2 elements. I've tried it and I haven't seen it work. And I think if you reflect on the voter participation, meeting attendance, the experience hasn't worked. One person, one vote, democracy, that will resolve the issue of race relations.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Paula. We have had the ability to have a referendum for both Māori and general wards this whole time that Māori wards have been in place. Our current referendum policy takes a consistent approach to all wards. And essentially what LGNZ so far has been saying is don't treat Māori wards differently. And so when you look, and what I oppose is the current legislation which forces a referendum. It doesn't just give an option, it forces one, and it forces it only for Māori wards. There are clear distinctions between what we have in our referendum policy that we approved today and what the government is forcing through and imposing on us. I personally support Māori wards. I supported establishing them, and I support them staying. I see great value and I see the importance of them, and they are one person, one vote. It is proportionate to the number of Māori representation around this table is proportionate to the number of people who are on the Māori electoral roll, and they all have their one vote just like everyone else. So the suggestion that it isn't one person, one vote is incorrect. What I do want to explain, though, I won't be supporting the entrenchment, requesting an entrenchment, and that's because I think that's a very significant constitutional debate. We only have very few provisions within the Electoral Act which are entrenched, and there needs to be wide public debate around an issue like this, which I don't think LGNZ is resourced to lead, and particularly with the exiting of Auckland and Christchurch, we really need to take a focused approach. It requires a 75% majority of Parliament, so you would need National and Labour to work together on this, and so far any attempt to even entrench the current 7 Māori seats in central government have failed. So I guess it's just a pragmatic, for me it wouldn't be pragmatic in terms of prioritising LGNZ resource to pursue that, and it's a very challenging and constitutional debate which I don't feel we're in a place to ask them to take on at this time. Yeah.
Supporting all of these. And I guess I just wanted to tautoko what Councillor Moko has said. And just also, we consulted on Māori wards with our community, and as I recall, 85% people supported Māori wards. So we do have quite a mandate to, from my perspective and on behalf of our community, advocate for Māori wards, and to not have them, as Councillor Sarah said, treated differently to other wards. In terms of entrenchment, I understand that it's a significant thing to advocate for. However, I think that as Councillor Moko said, we're at a time where these debates most certainly do need to be had, because we won't be able to advance as a nation unless we can get some sense that the basis of our society in Aotearoa and for all people being here is Te Tiriti o Waitangi, and we need to have that constitutional debate. So I'm supportive of that because I see it as a way forward, and I think local government, NZ and councillors can very well lead some of these conversations. Our Māori ward councillors certainly are well grounded and able to advance those sort of debates nationally. Thank you.
Councillor Bitter.
Thank you, Paula. Hey, look, I'm going to ask for a bit of support here on on the particular issue of item 6. That's all I'm going to speak to today, which is the proactive lever to mitigate the deterioration of unoccupied buildings. This isn't a big issue for Hamilton, but it is a big issue for much of the Waikato, all the small towns. Otorohanga, for instance, half the buildings in Otorohanga's main street are earthquake prone. Demolishing those would destroy the town. Same in Te Araha, Morrinsville, Matamata, all those places, and throughout the small towns of New Zealand. No building owner wants to own an unoccupied building because they're still paying rates on it. It's a cost to them. There is usually a reason it is unoccupied, and that is often due to councils making occupation uneconomic, or central government rules such as the earthquake-prone buildings making them uneconomic. To then force the owner to do something probably demolition, that leaves gaps in a street facade, is wrong. So the remit has two parts to it, A and B. A, I am very opposed to. If you give councils that lever, they will use it. It's a big stick, it will whack people and it will hurt them. And it will have long-term damage to a lot of communities. Part B is perfectly good. Incentivise change. This can often be done by changing the rules to allow alternative reuse. This is about working together with owners, not against them. The structure of the remit means we either have to vote all for it or all against it. We can't split it into two. Part B, any council can choose to do that. Part A, if we vote for the remit, that means we're asking for a law change which will be fixed. So I think we should oppose it, leave councils to make their own decisions.
Councillor Van Oostend.
Thank you. Look, our council has made some really deliberate moves to establish Māori representation in our council, going back to Mayor King and the Mangai Māori introduction, and then on to Māori wards and our Kirikiriroa ward, 2 councillors that we have here. And I hear Councillor Moko on the leadership that we're showing the country around that. That couldn't have happened if there wasn't the removal of the barriers for the referendum. Although we can't say that ultimately, because we've made those decisions as a result of that. In my view, that's really valuable, and I can see in our day-to-day work the contributions of our Māori ward councillors, and I thank you. I therefore support entirely having our Māori councillors and the continued removal of those, and it's with dismay that I see the enactment of that bill. It doesn't stop LGNZ and councils from lobbying government for further change, although I guess given their response, the reaction may be the same. In terms of entrenchment, while it's not something that we have discussed or talked about before, or that we have knowledge of what our Māori partners' views are on that, I believe it isn't inconsistent with what we know of their aspirations. And so I will be supporting that. There is a real need for some consistency and certainty from Māori about the value that we place on their contributions, and I think that that absolutely would meet that threshold. I guess in closing, I thank Moko for the contribution that he makes on our behalf to the Te Maruata at LGNZ. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Mayor Southgate. Yeah, look, I'll be opposing 3, 4 and 6. In terms of 3 and 4, the decision-making process, it's already been, there's legislation has recently been passed on that in the central government. And I see it personally as another example of LGNZ membership having hitched its wagons to the previous Labor-led government. And I would suggest that their view on this is, in my view, is at odds with the majority of their residents in the councils which they lead. And look, there's a debate going on in this country at the moment about, whether you should have extra rights based on who your ancestors are. And I think it's a discussion that we do need to have as a country. I think it's high time we did have it, because I think there's been a lot of incremental creep over the last few decades based on various interpretations of the so-called principles of the treaty. So I think it is time we had this out as a country. My personal view is that you're either a constitutional democracy or you're not. And I want to see us remain a democracy. In terms of the entrenchment of Māori wards, I think that's a vast overreach, that one, and I certainly can't support that. With number 6, I have to have a little there's a feeling of Big Brother about this one, and I am a big believer in property rights, and I do see the value, as Andrew mentions, in the second part of it. But I would be uneasy about, as much as a pain as these things can be, and an eyesore and a difficulty, I have a real issue with property rights being superseded. And the whole thing's a little hazy, and to me raises more questions than it answers, so I won't be supporting that one. Thank you.
Thank you. I found this debate tremendously interesting, particularly the accusation of a glaring hypocrisy, because central government has Māori seats, has Māori wards, but central government doesn't have to jump through the same hoops that we do in order to have them. And this idea of one people, one vote being, that's so interesting to me, because of course the only people in Aotearoa who have 2 votes are landlords. Nobody else in this country has 2 votes. And in fact, you can vote in as many council elections as you have property that you own. So it's not just 2 votes, it could be up to as many as in your portfolio. So I think this debate has, just been so interesting. And LGNZ is, of course, a reflection of the councils that belong to it. Those councils who were elected at the last election. And while we might all possibly agree on this one thing, that the local government turnout is not what it should be, they are a reflection of those people who did get out and vote and put those people into power. And we oppose legislation all the time that has just gone through, including from previous governments. So, I just really struggle with this idea that there's a glaring hypocrisy throughout this, because to my eyes, this is pretty much BAU of local government. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I'm not going to labour a right of reply, except just to say in my right of reply that the difficulty that this process goes through each year does speak to me for the importance of democracy, of a rounded democracy, that we've all been able to have a say across a raft of issues, and that will go to the wider conference. And just to assure you that what council votes on today will be the view that I will take to local government conference, and I will also be sharing with you from conference, as I have done in previous years, the presentations, the debate and the ideas that are coming back from there. So let's go to the vote.
Well, I'm assuming Councillor Tim didn't
Oh.
want to.
So hopefully that's working better for you. The motion that's on the board, excuse me. Can you see that and you can understand that one? We're going to put it to the vote.
So is this, okay, so number 3.
Number 3, as on the screen.
The motion is carried, 9 for, 5 against.
Okay, thank you. Brings us to the next one, please, Amy.
This is the entrenchment one?
We'll reset. We'll quickly reset.
Now we're going to the entrenchment one. Can we all go to the vote, please?
The motion is lost, 5 for, 9 against.
Thank you. And then we go to the next one, which is the buildings, the deterioration of buildings.
The motion is carried. 8 for, 6 against.
So that's us done.
One more.
Noting.
Could you scroll down to what we wrote up? Just for the squaring up of the ones that we're not supporting, to make it abundantly clear for
Abundantly clear is great.
everybody. So the ones that have lost or were not moved and seconded, we say not support, which is the driver's licence and entrenchment, for complete and utter clarity for everything else because of the previous votes. We're not supporting because of the previous votes that we've done.
So it's a procedural kind of vote.
It's a
really, and I'll move
procedural
it,
to
and Andrew will
tidy it.
second. And we will just go to that, we'll quickly go to that vote. Gives us absolute clarity. Can you go to the vote, please, everyone? Thank you.
So the only reason that this one is going up there is that to make it extremely clear of what they're. Yes. Stronger was the indications that I got from them. Yes, 100%.
All right.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. It is awkward, yes, but it's the.
And your note, thank you, I've done it, it's been moved, it's been seconded, you were voting, please.
No, I mean, moving on to public excluded.
Oh, God, we'll hit with that for.
The motion
Right.
is carried,
Waiting for the
11 for,
results.
3 against.
We'll move to public excluded, there's not much in there, so we should be able to get that done and dusted, and then we have a
Fast briefing.
thing on the gardens. Oops, hold on, where have I gone? I've gone wrong. There we go. Yeah, and I've just got